I eat foods. I eat bloaty foods like bread. Like bread, you know?
Right.
Gentlemen.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
All right.
I hate
Well,
bread.
now that I know we're actually recording right now, I gotta.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are.
All right, yeah.
You know better. That's what return guests always know.
You're trying to what?
I said return guests always know.
Yeah.
We got to switch it up.
You guys are ignorant.
I know. Yeah, what do we do next time? I don't even know what the procedure is going to be going forward.
Either.
Our trickiness.
You know, we should do we got to do some quick audio tests because we have new equipment. So I need you to say like check, like over and over again, and we'll capture that and record
You
that.
guys might not want to announce that.
Yep, and now it's out there.
Can you do a quick sound check for us, Mo? We can't quite hear you. Can you say something?
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to say because I want to kick things off so everybody listening understands the gravity of the situation. When Corey originally had asked me to join, he kind of been approached with a Zoom session idea where he politely suggested that clothing was optional. And I wasn't sure what to make of it, but needless to say, we're doing this via phone.
Yeah. just not the same dynamic, is it?
It really isn't. Sure, there's a connection thing, maybe the way that you originally intended it, but
no, I would like to say though that is not on you. That's 100% on me. I am very uncomfortable in my own skin. So
I just didn't want to become more insecure after doing that.
Dude, it's like I have so much moles on my chest. It looks like I have 100 nipples.
Oh, you look like what?
I have so much moles on my chest. It looks like I have 100 nipples.
That's shock.
Isn't that a sight?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean,
Could you imagine seeing someone pull their shirt off and then just like I have a third nipple and that's for real. I for real
What?
have yeah, dude, you know this.
Wow.
I have a third nipple, but it doesn't look
apparently
like
it's not hereditary.
I've never inspected you closely.
It doesn't look like the other two nipples. It looks like
like a dog nipple.
It's almost like when you have like a dog will have a litter of puppies, but then there's like the one puppy that has like brains coming out of its ear. Like that's my third nipple. It's just a mangled mess.
Looks like a messed up puppy.
Kind of.
I have no idea where we're going.
I don't either.
With any of
But
this.
I will tell you this: I was very excited, Mo, that you decided that you were going to take time on a Friday afternoon to actually talk with us, which I thought was quite kind of you.
Yeah.
Who me?
Yeah.
Well, listen. Okay, so to kick this thing off on the foot of honesty, let's just be real here, guys. First of all, even when I was able to travel and all of that, I would make time for you guys anytime. All right. But with the situation as it is, this is the extent of my social life pretty much.
Oh.
So, we're just, it's a moment of realness here, but
I feel that though. I was coming over.
I mean, look, for a lot of us, Zoom or Google or whatever has become our cigar lounges, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So these are great opportunities, and in some ways, I feel like people are closer today than they were before coronavirus.
We need cell phones that we can both smell and taste the other people on the other side of the phone.
Yeah, like a scratch and sniff type thing.
Yeah.
Like that'll replace all human interactions. If we could just smell and taste someone through the phone.
I can't wait to be on the phone with someone and be like, I want to smell your ass so bad.
It's like,
Right.
are you licking my ear?
Isn't the adult film industry kind of working on stuff like this?
Probably.
Are they really?
I
What
would
do you
believe
call
it.
that? 4 and 5D, essentially? Is that what it is?
What is it?
I don't know if
I
don't know
think
if that's like another.
they're usually bigger than that. Maybe 6D, 7D.
Jesus Christ, Chris.
Is about the standard in
Chris's
porn.
failed attempt at a joke.
It was a dick-sized joke.
So Mo, you and I, we were just exchanging and said like, obviously I've put clips out from the recent episode and I was like, holy shit, wonderful timing. In terms of your brand overall, and it's weird because it is. I've had people message me and like, I've never heard of Patina before. Like, send me some information, and I was like, go check out their Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, here's where you can get stuff. So it was really cool that like I saw that, just the words that Chris and I put out garnered some attention around the brand overall, and I was like, man, that makes me so happy. Like, that was awesome. It was really cool to see.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we talked about this a little bit too, and even and I don't know if you're going to talk about what we got cooking.
Yeah.
Here.
Chris and I plan on announcing it like right now. So
sweet. Yeah. All right. So when we were talking about that, we were talking about audience crossover or lack thereof, right? So a lot of, even after I did the first podcast with you guys, I saw an uptick in people that I had never seen before posting Patina. And I imagine it'll be similar this time because you guys have a reach, first of all, that's greater than Patina itself, is greater than the podcast that I do, which is called Sultans of Smoke. And really with a different set of people that we just don't really reach. So for you guys to get out there and say that really helps a lot, man. And I appreciate that. And it's always good to be underrated versus overrated, no doubt about it.
Right.
The issue comes into play when you lose that underrated, and then people are like, you know what, man, they're kind of overrated, and it's almost like you got to be careful not to ride that. You see that a lot across a lot of different industries and across a lot of sports. So we it's always great. I would much rather have, that's an underrated brand than an overrated brand for sure. Even if I was selling way more cigars, I would rather be underrated than overrated any day of the week.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing too is like rewinding in a matter of years or whatever it's been since we've known each other. And just like bringing the brand to the market, and I was of course immediately sold. I was like, yep, I'm in on this. And it was absolutely wonderful. And you see like just the grind and what you've done. And we've had some really cool conversations, just you and I, which has been, not only super insightful, but it helps me kind of realize like this is what you go through in building a brand. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. For sure.
Ain't no sunshine.
No.
And Chris, I think, articulated it well when we talked about your brand on the last podcast. Is like appreciating the grind of it and what it really takes, the kind of fortitude it takes to put yourself out there and build something from the ground up is pretty amazing. And with that, right, you've had 2 variances of a cigar for an extended period of time, but just recently released. What kind of recent? Well, it's pretty recent, which is the Maduro cigar. So can you tell me, because I feel like there was a point in time where we had talked about it, but nothing had come to fruition. So whatever that gap was, can you fill that in from here's the inception of what I wanted to create and here's where it's at and everything in between?
Okay, so this kind of goes to really the evolution of what you talked about, building a brand, right? So when you look at kind of some of the things that have occurred over the past 3 years, I always tell people, look, man, started Patina when the FDA stuff just got approved.
Right.
Okay. Then we deal with a near revolution / civil war in Nicaragua. Then comes COVID-19. And then in between that, I had a factory change and a distributor change. So there's been a lot of stuff going on that people don't really see. And so it's easy for people outside to say, man, he took forever on this. Well, it's not necessarily took forever. It's just, there's a lot of things that happened that affected that. In addition to the Maduro market, by and large, has a lot of cigars that are very, very similar together, okay, are very similar, smoke very similar, create similar experiences.
Yeah.
So to come out with something that was different, that, again, the whole goal is always Connecticut, Habano, Maduro. If you take the band off, you know it's a Patina. And until we got to that point, I just wasn't comfortable, man. And then on top of that, you had the factory change, so I had to finish that cigar at a whole different factory than where I started it.
Right.
How was that? Like
Um,
the consistency.
So that was all at Mombacho was the original factory, correct?
right. Yep. And now Patina's made at Nicaragua American, which is Naxa, which is really had some hits recently. So really excited about the direction we're going there as a factory. But yeah, man. So there's a lot of things that play into, and I think us as consumers, because consumer of cigars too, right? Like I smoke other people's stuff all the time. We've gotten really into into this mode of what's new, what's next, what's new, what's next. And part of that is the industry. They created a monster in a way and fed the beast, because who doesn't want to be able to sell cigars, I guess. But it's not about that to me. The cigar has to speak a certain language, and then it'll get released. And that's it. Otherwise, dude, if I can't build a brand with staples, it doesn't matter what else I keep coming out with.
Right.
Because those are just one-hit wonders. It's trying to make albums.
That's true. Yeah.
So
in terms of what you have available, do you personally feel like at this particular point you're comfortable in what's represented in the portfolio for you to kind of advance what you're doing with Patina overall? Like that's my long-winded of saying what is next. And I know it's ironic because you just said that's what people are looking for, but in my own head is like, but I don't mean like, hey, what's the next cigar Mo you're coming out with? But what is the long-term look like? What is your vision and what do you want to achieve long-term?
Yeah, man. So those are great questions. So what do we look at? I mean, in the near term, more sizes for the Maduro, right? If I'm lucky enough to make it to 5 years, then I'll put out a limited. Okay, because I think at that point you deserve it, not deserve it, but you've earned the right, or maybe earned the opportunity to present a limited edition cigar. These days, 5 years in business in the cigar world is pretty good. So that would be something I would look at.
Very cool.
I would like to reward some of the retailers that I've been working with for years, like a few years now, with some exclusive stuff. But that's, work in progress. I did some stuff for Casa de Monte Cristo in Chicago. Just a variation of the Habano and Connecticut blends, which really were some of the best cigars, actually.
You're like, fuck, should have been regular production.
kind of looking back on it. But so those are things like in the near term, right? In terms of the brand as a whole, dude, so COVID-19 really has brought up a lot of different things that you're looking at from a business perspective, because it's changed. So we talked about, and I don't know if we talked about this the last time we talked, but we talked about low-hanging fruit for the FDA. We talked about online cigar sales, right? And so if there's going to be this war on online sales, that's going to, it causes a brand like mine to try to be B&M focused, right?
Right.
And then comes COVID-19 and really shines the spotlight on having online customers,
right?
Because that's a lot of lounges were closed,
right?
Guys, B&Ms were closed, so
accessibility ends up defaulting to online,
right? And so, man, it's just there's a lot going on right now, and I think being agile is really important. In other words, not overextending yourself one way or the other in terms of building up massive inventories, putting a bunch of money into swag. These things right now don't, and they haven't really made sense ever. Maybe not the inventory part, but certainly putting a lot of money into swag never made sense. But there are some just things that I want to just do differently. So if Patina comes out with swag, that'll be, the cigars won't be limited. but swag will be limited.
Right.
So, for example, like you come out with a hat where you only do 25 of them. So that gives value to the people that actually get it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
Totally makes sense.
I want
So it's kind of like almost like a collectible in a way.
Yeah. I think I want a bronze patinaed ashtray.
Yeah,
I think Stinky makes one of those, don't they?
Dude, that actually would be kind of dope.
It would be cool.
So look, I looked at ashtrays, and when it came down to it, you're like, okay, I go to lounges. There are Ashton ashtrays, my father ashtrays,
Yeah.
Patel, everything. Yeah.
but Rocky Patel,
Yeah.
brands that I wouldn't even be a SKU in their arsenal,
Right.
let alone a line. So I'm like, okay, and do people really smoke more of this because
The trays,
they're
the ashtrays
ashtrays
sitting there. Right.
absolutely fucking not.
Right.
So
Coming up with marketing ideas, unless you say at the bottom of the tray, you should really smoke this.
Have a message.
yeah. So I don't need people smoking a bunch of other stuff, putting the ash in a patina ashtray. Not
Right.
Patina.
Right.
It's almost like insult to injury.
Yeah, it is.
Really
It is. It kind of. It is like more of a defeating proposition.
So not only am I not going to smoke your stuff, I'm also going to fucking ash on it.
I like
I'm
the
good,
idea
thanks.
of like limited swag though,
I
because
do.
Chris and I, we have a series of something that we plan on doing, which isn't like, from an investment perspective is not incredible, but it is series type related and it's a clever idea. And our thought was the same thing, was like, now you have this thing that may come in succession over time, and then you have
Right.
the ability to have all of them.
Right.
I always like that. I always think that's cool.
Sure. Yeah. Look, dude, they got Mike Trout rookie cards selling for like $500,000.
That's
right now.
insane.
I mean, there's pure insanity.
Yeah, that's insane.
I don't want to get into the economics of everything, but there's some just really crazy shit happening on right now. Not even talking about socially, that's a whole other ballgame.
Right.
But even financially and economically, that people just don't even realize. So we just got to be smart here going forward. I think a cautious plan of growth, right? And that's it. And listen, man, for whatever it is, the dudes that ride with us made money during COVID. The retailers that had patina sold patina.
That's awesome.
That is great.
Okay. And the guys that didn't missed out.
Right.
And that's okay, because they were selling other stuff. But man, who wouldn't be able to use a few extra bucks off of a brand that they didn't think was going to sell?
I mean, I look at it in this case is that in the scenario of COVID-19, as long as it existed and still exists, obviously to a degree, and I mean that from an economical perspective. Obviously, there's certain things going on that are overshadowing what COVID-19 once was in
Right.
terms of severity. But
Right.
if you're a shop owner, it's like you want every fucking thing you can get during challenging times. Well, at least you should. And if you don't, I'd question why you're operating a business. But yeah, I see like for the folks that were rewarded by having your stuff on the shelves, it's like I almost look at that and say, okay, well, is there a piece of that you can use to market going forward? Because the reality is like when I smoke your cigars, I'm weirdly enough, over a long period of time, still infatuated with it, which is actually, Mo, kind of unnerving, because there's certain cigars I smoke that I fall in love with very quickly. And not that I fall in love with them.
Yeah.
I don't fall out of love with them, but then it's like just kind of get stale and, hey, I want to try to get on the next thing. And it's almost like Chris has used the analogy before. Like if you eat steak every single day, you're going to get tired of eating steak.
Oh, yeah.
But your cigars, every time I have them, like, it's just not that kind of experience, which is really weird. And I wonder if that's part of it. Like you see things move off the shelves because I know there's probably a sense of loyalty, but they're fucking amazing cigars, period. You use the term like staples. I mean, I look at it, I was like, that's what it is.
We
at least
talked about that,
definitionally.
man. Okay, so I remember you talking to me about this not only on the last podcast, but also when we sat down when you were visiting the Chicago area,
Mm-hmm.
and talking about how, like, you know, you have this thing where it's like, man, you'll smoke something, and for whatever reason, you just kind of graduate from it, or, you know, or gravitate from it, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I always told people about the Patina blends were, it's not going to capitalize on the latest trend. The branding, the cigars themselves, my personality. I'm not a trend guy. Never have been. I'm a classic withstands trends, right? Withstand trends come and go. Today it's Nikes, tomorrow it's Vans, the next day it's Chuck Taylors, then we're Reebok, and then we're back to Nike. If you are just solid cigars that fit somewhere in a rotation, you could become a staple in that rotation.
Right.
But you also have to have a unique smoking experience, right? Like if every Habano or every Connecticut or every Maduro tasted like mine, why would somebody pick up a Patina? They'll just go pick up something else that's better known, right?
Right.
But if guys like Patina, they gotta smoke Patina.
Yeah, it's weird too, because like I don't know anybody who has tried your cigars. It's like, meh. Like personally, I'm sure people out there exist just by the sake of numbers. You know, someone's like, meh. But it's like every time I talk to someone, or like I put something out on social media, everyone's like, fucking amazing all the time. All the time. And it's like, to me, that's kind of wild that, and you have, and I will say this because I know you personally, you have an infectious personality. So there's always other elements to cigars in terms of like creating that connectedness. And not all the time is it just the cigar. It's the brand, it's the marketing, it's the people who back it, right? It's like this collective thing.
Absolutely.
And you are that and represent the brand really well. And oh, by the way, some bomb ass cigars.
No, I appreciate that, man. I mean, look, we joke around about it, but there's a lot of truth to that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Based on the numbers, not everybody likes Patina. So, contrary to but look, when you challenge the status quo of what people expect from a certain type of cigar, it's going to take them time to appreciate that different take, right?
Right.
People have gotten so used to a certain Nicaraguan profile or a certain Dominican profile or a certain Honduran profile. And then somebody comes, which we've seen more of, to complement a lot of the people in the industry today. We've seen a lot of people start challenging those preconceived notions about what you would expect from a primarily Nicaraguan cigar,
right,
or a primarily Honduran. So it's exciting from that regard, man. But trying to get people to be open-minded is very, very difficult, especially when it comes to cigars. But it's fun, man, and it's challenging. And you're absolutely right. I think if you like Patina more than just because of the cigars, I think from what I've gotten feedback about is that people just feel like it's a brand to them that represents being okay with being yourself. Not trying to put on a show, not trying to fit into something, not posting something on social media because you want to feel cool. And I always tell people, Patina could never be uncool because it was never cool to begin with. Okay.
Dude, I
this
love
is the truth,
that.
bro.
I love that.
It's the absolute truth. People, like, you know, they still wear those, the Air Nike mall walkers all the time. Right? Because you just never go out. You're always in because you were never in.
Dude, that's
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Why? How are you not using that as marketing, dude? Like, coin that shit right now.
Because I'm an accountant.
All right, that's fair. Yeah. You're still thinking in a previous life. You're like, well, it's not me. No, but I like that though. That's actually a really good way of putting it too. Like, I think about the variations of cigars that have hit the market, even in the recent, like, I don't know, it's like 2 to 3 years. Like, It's so weird to me how many brands will reach out to Chris and I and are like, "Hey, I've got this cigar brand I'm starting. Will you take a look at our cigars? Will you review them?" And it's like, I'd never heard of them, don't know where they're from, and then I'll ask some questions, and it's like the frequency of that happening is just like more and more and more and more often. And you see most of them, you see a lot of them come and go, right? Very quickly. It's like you flash quick, and then you fade out into the abyss.
But still encouraged.
Yeah, and it's
still encouraged.
So I keep going back to like what you said as far as like creating a staple, and it's almost like almost like putting the American flag into the moon. You know what I mean? Into the soil of the moon. It's like, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. This is what we want from a longevity perspective. Right. And just smoking your cigars in a continuum, like over, I don't know, how many years has it been? Like, I've probably been smoked 2 years, probably, maybe. I don't know. Where the fuck has time gone? It's just absolutely incredible. And it's like, for me, I look at it and it's like, from an exposure perspective, you've got representation online, you've got representation in B&M. How do you continue excelling the exposure, especially in times of which we're in now, COVID-19 obviously being extremely prohibitive? That, as you said earlier, your life and your connection to people has been in a virtual nature, obviously, in the recent few months. So how do you create that expansion? You travel a lot, but you're like, dude, it's like when I see where you're traveling and how often you're gone, just because we've communicated so often, I'm like, how are you gonna keep doing this? What's the next step as far as the exposure piece?
Because it's not work to me. The traveling gets old, but right now I happen to miss it because I haven't done it.
Amen, brother.
And sometimes we realize what we take for granted. But I will tell you that, to me, it's a game, right? Like, dude, being a brand like Patina, you're going up. It's like, I always liken Patina to the Cleveland Indians in Major League.
Right?
You've got the shoddy ass airplane with duct tape and
right. So like, I just, it's like, do you guys remember this movie?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when they did the American Express commercial and they had to tell people that they were a Major League Baseball team?
We're a Major League Baseball team.
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
Right? And that's kind of like, hey, these are actually real cigars. Excuse me. We continue to try to push and get that exposure. So I'm still in the still suck when Ricky Vaughn was breaking those throwing fastballs and breaking whatever those fake batters in the box. Yeah. So we're still at that phase, and Roger Dorn taking ground balls off of his entire body.
He's bruised up.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. But we're graduating and gaining a little bit more acceptance. And look, man, I always used to tell people, if Patina took off right away, I'd have been worried. I'd have been really worried. And I think I talked about this to you guys too. I would have been like, okay, this is not sustainable.
Oh,
right?
I get you.
But the fact that it's taken long and we're still here gives me hope that the foundation is strong.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And the fact that people that have been smoking Patina from the beginning are still smoking Patina.
That's pretty, that I think is what I admire the most. Is like you got just a hardcore foundation.
So, man, not to be confused with the amazing things that Nicholas Melillo is doing.
Yeah, not Foundation Cigars. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Suck it, Nick. Just kidding.
Just have to be, keep things. But yeah, man. So like I said, bro, if things took off right away, I'd have been worried. And how do you continue? Most people still have never heard of Patina. There are people today that have never heard of Tatuaje. You go to certain stores.
Yeah, but don't you just want to smack the shit out of those people?
It's like, where are you living?
I'm not really prone to violence unless.
Me either.
Watching the stock market lately has made me want to be violent. But other than that, just can't fucking believe it. But anyway, there's always room to grow, I guess is my point. And when you put into perspective that a brand like Romeo and Julieta will sell 7 to 10 million cigars of a SKU, not a line, not a brand, a SKU, it really shows that we all have a long way to go. Even the biggest of boutique. Okay. So there is, I'm not just going, man, for like acceptance from the boutique dudes, right? Like the boutique smokers.
Right.
I believe the cigars are blended in a way and represent an experience in a way that could extend into mainstream smokers, right? And that's the whole part about being like a classical type blends. These are cigars that you could smoke multiple in a day. You could smoke them back to back. You could smoke them every day. These are the types of things you want to look at as you're building something for the long term, right?
Yep. Right.
And so I believe that I don't want to take business from a dude like Nicholas Melillo or a Pete Johnson or a Skip Martin or something like that. I want to get out there and be able to get some of the market share from the big boys.
Right.
And because those are the guys that are really like, I mean, you're talking bigger, right? So
you talking about
you're talking someone like Fuente owns over 20% of the market share, which is insane to me.
It's crazy, but they've done such an amazing job. And why is that? Because they have classical branding.
Yeah. Well, but do you think
they've been doing it forever?
Do you think, Mo, too, that there's a generational piece here that also exists?
For sure.
Like I think about in terms of let's talk about boomer generation, which is currently where my dad would be categorized.
COVID targets.
Right, like traditional Fuente by boxes at a time. Do you think once there's an erosion of that generation, you work your way into more the millennial mindset, which is I want to try everything, I want to research everything, I want to expose myself to new things? Do you think that dynamic will change just naturally?
As we get older. I mean, my rotation, let's say 5 years ago, was 20 cigars. Today, it's 5 to 7. Okay, it's only natural that you start to really hone in on your palate, and it's not an age thing. It's a cigar experience thing, right? How long have you been smoking cigars? Now, admittedly, we've seen with like dudes that are like in their 50s or 60s, like as you get closer to like that 60s range, the less adventurous you're going to be, right? You just kind of know what you like, and that's it. But guys our age, guys, younger, a little bit older, even somewhat 15, 20 years older than us, are still experimenting, trying different stuff that comes out.
Right.
But the point is that you could take a branding like Patina, and if you're 25 years old, you don't look stupid smoking it. But if you're 65, you don't look stupid smoking it either.
Right.
There's not some crazy design on the band. There's no ridiculousness on the band. So my point is that it has mass appeal if people give it a chance.
Right.
And man. So I always believe in classic.
Yeah. So do you think part of it is just, and I mean, you kind of alluded to it already. We're like, hey, there's people out there that don't know Tatuaje, right? And I think like even when we discuss it amongst the three of us, we go, that's crazy. Like in my head, I go, well, that's crazy. And then I go, well, how many people exist in the world? Of course, there's people who haven't, right? So for your particular brand and your cigars, it simply comes down to almost just an exposure thing, right? Like not only do you have these other brands of cigars, categories of cigars, you're also talking about just an immense amount of people. Like that's just, I mean, we can't touch everybody. It's weird too because like I think times too were like, actually it was actually not too long ago, and this is not an egotistical thing, so I hope no one takes it this way. But
did you say egotistical?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was I don't know, it was like 2 weeks ago. I get this Facebook message from Miguel from Crown Heads, and I look at the comment. It wasn't a message; it was a comment on another thread. And so I click into it, and it was Steve Saka who had posted something on Facebook. It was one of the reviews we did of his cigars, and he goes, "Oh my
I remember
god!"
that.
He's like, "I don't know who these guys are. Will someone tell me who they are?" And the first thing in my head was, "How the fuck does he not know who we are?" And then I started thinking about, it, I'm like, then I started thinking about, I was like, "Oh no, that makes sense. I get why he doesn't know who we are." Like it was one of those things where I just think about like an association and like all the people that smoke cigars, and it's small but it's big at the same time. Kind of. I was like, "No, okay, I get it." Like, step down off your high horse for a second. Like, not everyone's going to know who the fuck you are.
Plus, social is the biggest form of getting your brand exposure out there anyway. So any older generation is likely to be socially challenged.
Oh, well, that's definitely Saka.
So all I'm saying is this is a PSA, people. If you're in your 20s or 30s and you smoke cigars and maybe your mom or dad will enjoy a cigar with you, please point them to the brands that you love and cherish, that you experiment with, because chances are they're not seeing it on social media and they need to be influenced by you.
Right. Dude, remind me to tell you guys a story offline that will make you laugh. So don't feel insulted by that. Look, man, and the reality is, and we have to be honest with ourselves first and foremost, there's going to be a lot of people that don't know a brand like Patina.
Right.
There are a lot of people that don't know what Dunbarton is. Okay?
Right. Yeah. Right.
And in the cigar media game, the most recognizable is Cigar Aficionado.
Right.
And very, very small groups of smokers know what anybody else is. When even a guy like Coop, that's been around for forever.
Yep.
Do you know how many people have no idea who he is or what his blog is?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Okay. So these are things that you shouldn't take personal because, dude, it is, again, man, you're talking about 90 to 95% of the people are people who smoke cigars.
Right.
Very few people are cigar smokers.
Big
difference.
Oh,
you were. I've said this on the Mo. I don't know how many times I've quoted what you told me when we were sitting in that lounge. You told that, you was like, "There's a lot of people who smoke cigars, but there's not a lot of people who are cigar smokers." I'm like, "Oh God, it resonates so much." I swear to God, I've used that 50 times on this podcast since you said that to me. Sorry,
man,
but I do call it out and say that you were the one that told me. It's not plagiarism.
I appreciate that. Yeah, right. Yes,
right.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And like that's kind of where the pandered audience is for like a cigar aficionado. And it's nothing against them at all. I know like there's times where I talk about it and people are like, "You really harp on cigar aficionados." I was like, listen, they're probably it doesn't sound like I give them respect, but I don't respect a lot of organizations as much as I do them for what they've done for the industry, like dated all the way back to the 90s. I may not agree with their approach to certain things, but like I understand what kind of road they paved for everyone else. That does not fall short in my mind. So
yeah.
But anyway,
well dude, look, we probably think of Half Wheel is probably the biggest of cigar in terms of news websites and all of that, probably for the online world, right?
Right.
Okay, so if we look at if we consider Half Wheel to be the biggest, the majority of people still don't even know what Half Wheel is.
Yeah, which is,
in fact, a lot of people don't know what Half Wheel
that's
is.
also very just strange to me. But you're right. Like when you break it down, of course.
Absolutely. And that's not a dig on them. It's just reality. I remember when I was working retail, trying to sell a customer, hey, when the Luzioni Hot 10 was the #1 cigar for Half Wheel that year, I was like, oh, this was the #1 cigar in Half Wheel. What's Half Wheel?
Right.
Oh, and you would hear that time and time again. Now, the other thing that you guys kind of talk about here, and that's an overarching theme, as a brand, trying to like bridge the gap between social media and brick and mortar, right? Because you're constantly trying to get the momentum you're building on social media to translate into brick and mortar sales. But the toughest thing is, man, it's just the customer is so different.
Right.
And I haven't really figured out how to do that necessarily, although I suspect a lot of the brick and mortar customers are more on Facebook versus Instagram.
They are. I couldn't agree. I mean, I noticed that just from interaction.
Right. And but there's definitely a gap there, right? And there's this thing in trading, gaps get filled, right?
Right.
So there's got to be a way to fill that gap, but we still see that.
Do you see like in terms of I think about brick and mortars, like have you ever had, Mo, the objection you go in to a place and you're selling the brand, you're selling the cigars, and an objection from a brick and mortar is, okay, well, you're fighting for shelf space. I have this other thing over here that you are wanting to displace, but here's what it does categorically for me.
Sure.
Like I'm sure that's an objection that comes up. So like, how do you overcome something like that in terms of like, give Patina a chance and here's why? Because I think a lot of it is like, once someone starts smoking your stuff, I don't want to say it sells itself because it makes it sound like there's not a lot of effort, which I know there's an immense amount of effort, but they're so good in terms of not only the cigars themselves, but again, the connectedness of everything else is a brand that I feel like you want to get behind. I think sometimes people just need to understand that. What's that process like for you?
Man, that's a great question. So it took me till about year 2, maybe even later, closer to year 3 to really, and I know this sounds like I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but it took me a lot longer maybe than it should have to realize that it really was never about the cigars. Okay. It's about how you fit into the humidor and what you could do for the retailer. So you're 100% right on that. And that's kind of the approach more so that I've been taking. So like if I go into like a B&M, I'll go in, I'll look at their humidor, see where maybe we could fill a potential hole that exists in their offering, stuff like that. But it's not so cut and dry, right? Because they're going to tell you, oh, well, I have 50 Connecticut's, I have 30 medium body, some Habano, some Corojo, some this, some that, and I sell a ton of these and sell a ton of that. Okay. I mean, what are you going to say?
Right.
I mean, dude, look, I've gotten to the point where the cigars are different. They're not like anything else you have on your shelf. If you want to put in a little effort, if you get a few guys on these, they have to smoke these. That's incremental business that you weren't getting before. What are you going to lose? I don't have a minimum buy-in. You want to bring in a box of each? You could bring in a box of each. I've made it as easy as possible to get B&Ms to take a chance on the brand.
Right.
Yeah.
If they want to continually not do it, that's okay. So then it becomes my job to make sure that they have no choice but to bring it in. But that takes time.
Right.
So that's all I'm trying to do, man.
Well, how has COVID-19 impacted that effort? Like you said, like, hey, you can do the portion of which, hey, I'm selling you getting it on the shelves, but the throughput of it all, it's my effort in making sure that people are coming in and grabbing a patina as opposed to something else, or in addition to something else. So,
and that's what I want. In addition,
okay.
Because, like I said, I'm not here to eat somebody else's pie, right? Made that sound bad. I'm not here to, So I'm not here. I just want my piece.
Right.
Okay. And I don't want, it doesn't have to be at the expense of somebody else. It could be in addition to your business, but it begins and ends with the consumer, man. The consumer drives the demand. It's all about demand. Why don't I come out with more cigars? Well, does the demand exist? Is there a yearning from the market for more? Okay. You don't just put stuff onto the market and hope something sticks.
Right.
That's not a good recipe.
That's an unfortunate approach I think a lot of people take, though. Like, I think a lot of people think that Field of Dreams is real, and they go, if you build it, they will come. Go, hey, that's a movie. So let's not make that your full approach to business.
Right, yeah. Build it if they actually fucking want it.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, dude. Look, I happen to be patient. I mean, for as long as I can be, until maybe there comes a point where you can no longer afford to be patient. But I'm trying to be as patient as possible. The people, and rather than focus on the people that don't want the brand, I continue to try to find ways to grow with the people that do.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Do you find yourself moving on from a B&M that may say, well, not right now, or do you out of persistence and tenacity continue to reach out to them periodically, maybe quarterly, I don't know, maybe monthly, or do you just kind of let them be?
It depends, because a lot of that comes on the rep, right? So I use independent brokers throughout the country.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of kind of their role. I mean, that's the value they should be adding. So that is how much they push, really is on them. Now, when it comes to me being on the road with them, I could speak to that in the sense that there are literally people that I've visited 3, 4, 5 times before they brought in the brand.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that I visited 3, 4, 5 times that have still not brought in the brand. Okay. So do you keep pushing? Yeah, to a certain extent, but at some point, dude, you just got to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to build it so they need to have it. Right.
It's almost like, so in like the industry that I work in, there's a lot of a manufacturer's approach where they do things that are called on spec level, where they create they create the demand with the consumer and with the end user, and everything funnels up.
Sure.
So, and I think part of that is that connectedness also to like social media, right? There's like there's a piece of there, and I know you say, hey, we're trying to figure out where that gap is and how do we utilize social media to maybe do some of those things in a more efficient way and more effective way. I think it exists. I'm not sure that like I personally have the answer for it, but I think there's definitely something there as far as like consumer demand, and building the anticipation and building some of the hype around it. And even just, it's like, again, for the people who are loyal to your brand, for the people that smoke them, myself being one of them, a huge advocate, would say like, this is not a cigar that you get tired of. It's a cigar you're always going to, there's never a time of which I don't enjoy your cigar. And I'm sure you listened to part of the last episode, and I put out the clips. But when I was telling Chris the story, and he was like, "Oh, play it back for me. You know, what was your trip like when you went to Copenhagen?" And I made sure I brought my Patina Habana with me. And it was like that experience that I got. I swear to God, it was like not an exaggeration. Like that was my ultimate heaven, which is weird because a lot of people would be like, my ultimate heaven is like being surrounded by like 5 prostitutes that are absolutely gorgeous, smothered in cocaine, like swimming in $1 million. Like mine was like, that was my ultimate Zen moment. And a big factor of that, arguably the biggest factor of that, was not only where I was location wise, but it was like, I knew what I wanted in an experience, and I knew what was going to be delivered as a result, and I knew I wanted to bring your cigar with me to make sure that that was fulfilled. And that's like, that's super fucking meaningful to me. And I think there's probably other people that kind of, they have that connection too. So it's like, even from like, I know, B&Ms out there are, you know, they've got things on the shelves and they know what sells and they know what don't. And they look at their inventory. I hope so. I think some are smarter than others in terms of those things. But it's like, I look at it like the Patina brand overall, and I'm with you. It's like, hey, if you take the chance, like this is gonna be a thing that works, because consumers, once they have it, it's almost like it's like you have crack rocks in your cigars a little bit. Like there's a little bit that's just like, I got to get my fix. And, you know, people are walking back into the B&M. They're like, give me that good stuff. You got to give me that Patina. I need my fix. That's how I feel about your cigars. It's super strange. I don't know why. It's weird. Do you have crack in them? Just to be clear.
No. I'm not the CIA. Whoops, did I say?
Wait a second? Did you say this on this podcast? God,
Yeah.
damn you.
Sorry. So it's weird, man, with Patina, because if guys only smoke it once, they're kind of like, okay, cool. Guys smoke it like, the more they give it a chance, what I found is that it becomes a part of the rotation. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Maybe
it makes
that's
sense.
just, well, duh, it's like common sense, but it really isn't actually common sense, because somebody has to make a concerted effort to try things multiple times. And not only that, but it's, how do I put this? There's something that will call somebody back to try it again, right? Maybe they thought it was okay the first time they smoked it, but there was something that said, you know what, I want to try that again. And then they try it a second time. And then by the third or fourth time, it's like, man, this really fits somewhere in my rotation. Right. And that's all you want. You want to be a part of a rotation.
Like there's a consistency factor there that exists.
Yes.
Where they're like, yes.
Yep, okay. Exactly.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you this. Like it's just knowing you personally, obviously, for a period of time, it's really cool to watch the progression. And it's also like, you know, I'm Chris and I do things as objectively as we can, right? There's obviously some biases because when you get to know people, you're like, hey, sure, these cigars are real good, but I fucking love these people. Or these cigars are good and I also hate these people. That happens too. So we try to be as objective as possible. It's like, I don't know of another brand that I think I probably root for more in terms of like, I want all the success in the world for all the things that you're doing, not only from a friendship perspective, but just because I truly believe in what you're doing and the brand and the cigars themselves. It's like, I feel like with some people, there's maybe a missing component there, but it's like, it's almost like you've got all the right ingredients and you've got the right recipe. And it's like that to me is like beautiful.
And the right approach. I think your approach is right. No, I think your approach is right. I mean, I think you're I could easily say for some brands they would simply just whore themselves, like, let's slap a pretty girl on this, huh?
Yeah. You kind of made mention to a little bit of that earlier, Mo, and I appreciate the fact that that's not that I don't know that I would ever blame you for doing so, but I'm glad it's not the path that you go down, because not only do I think it's not authentic, but one of the things that I've said numerous amounts of times is that when that occurs, even if it sells one, it doesn't make a good cigar. So it's never there may never be repeatability in that. I think it's a weird dynamic to me.
Unless she's your wife and she just
maybe this will get me in trouble, maybe it won't. I really don't care. I don't find value either on a personal level or a business level of objectifying a woman to try to sell my product.
Well, I don't think that would ever get you in trouble. Yep. I think
because some people might think that maybe I'm taking shots. I'm really not. Okay, this is sex sells or whatever is the oldest adage in the fucking, marketing playbook, right? Like this is that is to me not something that the brand represents.
Right.
Okay. Nor do I want it to be.
Right.
I want my parents or my wife, currently my girlfriend, but my girlfriend or my my brothers, my nephews, my nieces to be able to look at my Instagram page and be proud. Like, that's kind of how I look at it, right? I don't want.
So Mo, can I ask you the question? So the photo shoot I did in my bathtub covered in all of those Habanas, I should probably not post.
I would strongly urge you to reconsider making that public. But what I want Patina to be is that, because in a world where people are always pressured to be a certain way or to act a certain way to get ahead. Listen, we all work. I worked in corporate America. You guys are still in corporate America, right?
Amen. Yes, sir, I am.
And there is a lot of yes, sir, yes, ma'am, that it takes to move up. Even if we disagree with a path
Right.
that our superiors want to take, we still have to execute what they want, right, in order to stay in favor. I always had a really hard time with that, which obviously has led me to doing something
your own
else.
thing, right?
But ultimately, I want it to be like where people look at the brand and they're like, you know what, man, I could still be, and I hope it inspires other people. Like if the success continues, like I could be successful and not give up who I am.
Right.
I could still make something or be good at something or build something and not have to follow this like blueprint because this is what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's really what it comes down to. I don't know.
I like this. Almost like bucking the trend and creating your own path to exist in this world, and not necessarily following in the one that a lot of people follow.
Right. I'm not trying to steal. I don't want to use create your own path as a
it's carve your own path. That's why I said create your own path.
Oh, it is carve your own path. Okay,
Yeah, that's why I diverted last second because I'm like shit. I'm stealing Crown Head's thing.
Yeah, I don't need the Cincinnati Hitman to come after me. Miguel coming out after me, trying to kill me. But who is an amazing guy. By the way,
good friend of ours. He is incredible. There's you know what? There's like I would say some key people within the cigar industry that I actually really like sitting down and hanging out with. Right. You and Miguel, amongst like another 2 or 3, are my absolute favorites. Where I'll literally just like I could sit down and just be like, yep, I could just sit here for 3 or 4 hours and be perfectly content.
Right. Yeah. He's just, man, class act.
So we have something that we're doing collectively and collaboratively coming this week.
Yeah.
Which is part of the Sultans podcast, part of the TLE podcast, and part of the Hot Ticket podcast, of which we're going to be doing on Monday.
Today.
Which was actually, technically tonight. We're going to post on social media. So hopefully when people hear this at like 7 a.m. in the morning, they'll tune in at 7 a.m. or they'll tune in at 7 p.m. at night.
They'll do it.
But I'm not kidding you. It's like I don't know that I've been more excited for something to occur than I am for what this may end up being. Because I don't know. It's like, part of me is like, it's weird because it's the mass personalities that exist. Is like, I don't know if this is going to be like a recipe for amazingness, which I suspect it will be, or like a recipe for like shit's going to go off the rails real fast in a good way. I don't know. But either way, I'm totally stoked for it.
Well, we talk about crossover, right? And we talked about that when we all got together to discuss it. And the reality is our podcast, like TLE and Sultans, have a decent amount of crossover. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to draw like a Venn diagram and we put our synergies together and, oh my God, I want to punch the shit out of myself right now. But if we were to seriously take a Venn diagram and do like the crossover points, us and TLE would have some.
Yeah.
Whereas I think maybe you guys in TLE have some.
We're like out in the ether a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
And so now you're bridging like all of these different people together that have these different reaches. And I think it's great. And the diversity of the podcast, and I'm not talking about male, female, and all that, ethnically, racially, whatever.
Oh, you mean like topically and just like the culture that we've created, right? Yeah.
Yes. When you're looking at the diversity and personalities on this podcast, it's going to be great just from that perspective.
Agreed.
And so, I'm excited about it. I think that the more people that we reach, whether it's Sultan's, TLE, Hot Ticket, or even all three of us together, I believe our passion for the industry, what cigars represent, and all of that is infectious.
Yeah.
And the more people that listen to people like us talk, it will help the industry grow because they'll realize we're not like the fat cat banker that smokes a cigar, right? Like
Definitely
only
not.
rich people smoke cigars. Well, then you've never been to a brick and mortar because I guarantee that's not the case.
Right.
Or like this like stuck up culture. It's not, man. It's by and large a culture of inclusion. And so there are some things that I have opinions on where it's not that, but we're not going to get into that here. But by and large, it's a culture of inclusion, and that's what we want people to see. And that's actually why I've never been a huge fan of this cigar lifestyle stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
agreed.
that creates exclusion.
Right.
Okay. And that's not what we want.
It's like with my cigar also
Right.
comes my
Rolex?
$600 shoes, the Rolex that I'm
Right.
wearing,
And the
this
boat I'm
gold
sitting on.
wristlet, all
Yeah,
this other stuff that
Well,
that is
absolutely.
essentially for all intents and purposes unattainable by most people.
And I
Which
wanna-
cigars are
Right.
not unattainable by most people.
No, for sure.
Right.
Unless it's that
Correct.
Gurkha.
Very well put.
Yeah, unless
That
unless
$1
it's
million
that,
Gurkha.
like $75,000 Gurkha. It's like it
Yeah.
could be
Yeah,
yours
the-
for just a cool $75,000. You're like, what?
Right. Oh man, don't even get me started.
Dude, I will tell you this. Like I for the same reasons that you're excited about it, I am as well, because I think the collective group of people, there's no shortage of dialogue. Honestly, for me, I think about it and go, how are we going to keep it under 3 hours? Like to me, that's like the piece of it that's giving them the most anxiety. Is like there's enough content to be represented between the whole group where it's like,
Yeah.
how do we keep it under this like massive thing, which hopefully, if successfully this first time, if it's something that we represent well and people attach themselves to, may only be the first edition of other editions that you know would precede it, and so on and so forth. But
Right.
I'm again, for the same reasons you're excited, I'm excited as well. And it's going to be,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be just between all of us, audience aside, is going to be such a fun time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Are you gonna? By the way,
Are you
you gonna cut your hair before then? I'm just asking.
No. No.
You're like, nah, fuck that, I'm out.
No, dude.
You're letting it go, bro. I love it.
Oh yeah. So I call my dude. My hair's like super curly too.
You've
And
got
so
a thick ass head of hair. Your hair
it
kind of
looks-
reminds me of mine, just different shade of color.
Different color. Mine's not straight. I don't want that to be misconstrued. My hair is not straight. Not there's anything wrong with whatever. But look, man. So I called my barber yesterday, right? No, 2 days ago. After you guys all fucking made fun of me, I'm like, man, maybe I look like a kid. And so I call him. I'm like, hey, bro, are you back open? He's like, yeah, I'm open. And I said, great. I might try to come in this week. And he goes, all right, cool. And he goes, what time do you want to come? I said, all right. And I said, hey, do we got to wear a mask? And he goes, oh, no, man, don't worry about it. You don't got to wear a mask. And so I said, you know what, bro, I'm going to wait a couple weeks. Because my thing is, if he's not going to make me wear one, he's probably not making other people wear one.
Right.
And if you think COVID-19 is over, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm with you.
Okay. It's been overshadowed.
But it ain't over.
But it's not over. There are upticks in cases just about everywhere that's reopened.
Right.
And maybe it's not to the pandemic point that it was at, obviously in March, but it won't take much for us to get back there. So we got to be really careful, I think.
Right.
As our like communities begin to reopen, and I'm not sure if I'm willing to be the guinea pig yet.
Right. You don't want to be like the first participant and figuring out what's going on.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
I'm willing to take a back seat and kind of see how things play out.
I feel that. It's good.
If that means having looking disheveled and whatever, then I'll take it. It's better than being hooked up to a respirator.
But do me a favor and don't wear your hat.
No.
Yeah, and you gotta poof it too.
I want you at least need to take it off for a
lion's mane.
Just take it off for like a second during the shooting and just kind of like slick it back with your hand and then put it back on.
Yeah, because all I need to do is a screenshot and I got it forever.
Well, all right, listen, I will start it maybe without a hat and then I'll put it on.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
Because the hat affects it. The hat lays it down.
Yeah.
But when there's no hat and it's
you're full fro.
Yeah.
God, I want to see that so bad. I've only ever really seen you with a hat on. I mean, other than the video the other day.
Yeah, it's hot.
I like it.
Yes, it is.
Dude, I kind of dig it. I mean, it looks. I'll be honest with you though, it looks fucking hot. Like it looks. I don't mean like hot, like Mo, you look sexy, boy. I mean, like you look like you're sweating because it's you got a thick head of hair, bro. Like real thick.
It is. It sucks, man. Are you kidding me? Of course, I want a haircut.
I need Mo.
It's killing.
I love it. All right, so here's what we're gonna do, Mo. This is how we're gonna close it out. I'm gonna ask you a series of questions, and I don't know if I've asked you these before.
Is this what did we do last time?
No. This is no. It's your.
Will you ask me if I wanted to fornicate with animals?
Oh, that was
all right.
Would you rather?
That's the would you rather. So did I ever tell you that I got in like some professor from the University of Minnesota reached out to me and gave me a dissertation on the question that I asked you, and I said something about like Down syndrome people, which was distasteful on my part. He fucking reached out to me and gave me literally a dissertation on why what I said is just like crippling to not only people with Down syndrome, but
cultural progression,
the vertically impaired.
Wait a minute. Why? How did he hear it?
I don't know.
I think I'm.
Did you put
I don't
in the
think
description?
No, I made the mistake of clipping it out and putting it on Instagram.
Oh, you did.
So
that's all right.
That's how we heard it.
I don't even want to tell me the question off here.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Like I've got to go through the archives to find it. But dude, he was so pissed, and I was like, "Oh, did I fuck up?" But hey, guess what? I never pulled it. It's still out there, so he can still be upset. The funny thing is when he sent me that, you know what? Yeah, I'll talk to you off air. I'm a petty person, and the other things happened after that. But it's not. These are actually very appropriate and very cigar related, and none of it. I've matured, Mo, since that point.
I'm sorry to hear that.
These are pretty even keeled. And I don't think I've asked you these before. What's your favorite type of cut on a cigar?
Oh, straight cut.
Okay.
What? You and Danny both?
Yeah. What are you guys married?
No, that's the only way to cut a cigar.
No star cut?
Really?
No punch cut? No
star
cut?
No flute cut?
What am I?
You ever done a flute? What about a flute cut?
Hey,
what about a flute cut?
I don't even know what that is.
That's when you poke a bunch of holes in the side.
Yeah,
and
what's
you smoke it.
What's the
flute cut?
Flute cut.
No, I can see why you'd like that.
There was who's the guy that makes the one that has like a bunch of puncture holes?
Yeah, all that. Yeah,
I've got one of those.
It's like the Iron Maiden. Like
it looks like some medieval torture tool. I'm like, what is this thing? Okay, straight cut. You like it?
All right. Traditional missionary.
I get it
for sure.
What's your preferred way of lighting a cigar?
I mean, just lighter.
Okay, just like just a torch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind Bic.
Okay.
I have my lighter, and if I forget my lighter, I always keep a Bic in the car.
Nice.
Okay.
So just in case.
Do you think it's weird how like some people are overly sensitive about like the use of matches, or it's like the only appropriate way to light a cigar is with a match or a cedar stick?
It is the coolest.
Again, bro, you're never gonna hear somebody. Well, maybe not. I shouldn't say never. You'll rarely hear somebody in the industry talk like that.
Right.
And you have to understand, too, and for a lot of people that have never had a chance to visit Nicaragua, I've never been to the Dominican or Honduras, but I'd imagine they're similar to Nicaragua. no one's using DuPonts down there, guys.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You're lucky that you have a torch.
Right.
All right. Butane is very hard to come by. Bics are, or things like the Jeeps, whatever, are very, very easy to use and economical.
Right.
The accessorization of the cigar experience is not a necessity.
It's
to
definitely
enjoy a cigar.
I totally agree with you. When I was
Okay.
I was in Sweden.
Yeah.
And when I was over there, I was in a God, what was the name of the town? It was just like right across from Copenhagen. It was like a 45-minute train
Right.
ride over the Baltic Sea. And we get there, and it's like there's a cigar shop in the Malmo. Sorry, Malmo is the city that I was in. There's a cigar shop over there in like side this mall, and it was like super like high end stuff, but like no torch lighters don't exist, right? So I like buy a Bic, and I remember the time of my wife's like, "Whoa, why are you using a Bic lighter?" And I was like, "Cause I'm gonna fucking light this thing up, and I don't have anything else,
Right.
so I'm gonna use this
Right.
Bic lighter. I want to smoke
Right.
this fucking cigar. I'm in the middle
Sure.
of, I'm in Sweden right now. I don't give a shit. If I had to get a magnifying glass and put this thing out in the sun, I'm gonna light it.
Yeah.
Do you
Absolutely.
I know, especially in some parts of the world, obviously those are more difficult to come by. But I don't know if you've ever tried to light a cigar on the beach with anything but a torch lighter.
Oh,
but it is fucking
Yeah, it's
murderous.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Sure.
On a beach for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I dig it. I like the answer.
And look, man, here's the thing, and you see this a lot where people try to use the accessories they use, the brands they smoke, whatever,
Yeah.
to create this image.
Right.
And forget, people, just stop. Your actions,
Yeah.
your actions as a human being give you your identity.
As
Right.
I'm slowly,
Nothing else.
I'm slowly putting this diamond plated fucking cutter in my
Yeah,
pocket.
Chris has got his
What's
like
that?
fucking golden diamond
I'm like
crusted
slowly tucking
DuPont
it into
lighter.
my pocket to hide
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, listen,
sheathing it.
No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that stuff. All I'm saying is, because first of all, I use a DuPont. I have
Yeah.
a DuPont.
You're saying
I
it's
have
not
Bic.
necessity.
All I'm saying is, don't feel like if you're a person on a budget, to
Right.
feel this pressure that you have to go accessorize yourself to impress people. You should never
Right.
feel that way. That's not
100%.
what this is about.
Right.
This is about enjoying an experience of a cigar. The people you enjoy with will always be more important than the accessories that you use to get the cigar ready.
100%.
Okay. So I just don't like when there is like this, again, this lifestyle component, and I don't know where this shit comes from. I mean, I know where it comes
We
from.
know.
Yeah,
but,
you know.
We
where it
know.
comes from.
but it's like this just creation of like this lifestyle. And it's like, guys, this should be for everybody.
Right.
And nobody should feel the pressure to do it a certain way. You do it the way, and listen, your buddies might give you crap about it, but that's what it's about, being friends. Okay.
Right.
You make, so you want to use a Bic light and your friends give you crap about it. Okay. That's funny. That's what friends do.
Right.
You use a DuPont and friends call you Big Shot. Hey, that's
what
cool
friends do.
too.
Right.
That's what friends do. But don't ever feel pressure to have to spend a crap ton of money to try to fit in. I just don't understand that.
One of the reasons I say that is because, like you, Mo, I actually always have a backup lighter, and it is a Bic lighter.
Yeah.
It is
me too.
always my backup, and it always goes with me no matter where I go. It's always
Yep.
with me, no matter what.
100%. 100%, man.
So I'm with you with that. Okay, so next question.
hmm
There's a cigar you're smoking that you don't thoroughly enjoy. What do you do with it? Do you put it down or do you continue smoking?
Okay, so in the beginning of my cigar smoking years, I would have kept smoking it. I had an attitude that you finish every cigar.
Okay.
Now, if I don't like something, I just put it out.
Yeah. Ain't nobody got no time for that.
It's just, you know what, bro? There's too many good cigars out there.
Right. That seems
and I
to
don't
be.
just smoke my stuff.
Yeah.
So.
That honestly seems to be so consistently after asking this question for, 4 weeks in a row now. That has been the definitive answer every time.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, hey, I'm putting it down. Like, I'm going to grab something else, or like life's too short to smoke something I'm not enjoying kind of thing. So
Yeah, I'm like the parent that has like the child that's like, yeah, she's not great, but she'll get there eventually. So I'll like just keep smoking it. Like, she's gonna do it. I know she is. She's gonna come
Gonna pull
around.
through.
Yeah.
Right.
But she never does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, you got to be these days, and this is just personal opinion, with the way a lot of the cigars are kind of what I've experienced is they're front loaded with flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And kind of as you get towards the middle and the end, it kind of becomes very linear. So you're actually more likely to keep a cigar longer with the way things are today. What I found is that usually by like the middle, I'll be like, yeah, okay, I'm done.
Right. You know what's
So
That's true.
you know what's interesting about that, Mo, from almost like an attention stand perspective, is that so I'm really I'm gonna create a connection here. I swear I'm getting somewhere with this. I'm gonna make a point.
no, I know. I think I know where you're going.
I listen to a ton of comedians, a ton. Like I mean, like that is comedy is probably my second passion next to cigars. And these guys, these big comedians, started changing how they put out specials. And what they do is they front load their best material at the beginning through the first 30 minutes, knowing that there's going to be attrition after the last 30 minutes. So they're really front loading everything. They're designing their material to be more impactful up front, knowing that there's going to be attrition beyond that.
Yeah,
100%.
There's actually a 57-minute rule that
Really?
most comedians follow by. Like anything above 57 minutes and you're losing them.
Yeah, on specials, it's like they're all. I mean, all of them say, "Hey, half-hour specials." Like this is where we need to be as an industry.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to say that.
It's a reflection of the consumer.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Just the way you consume material, just no different than the way you consume a cigar. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
What's the most, in your opinion, underrated region for tobacco?
Oh.
In like actual tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a really, really good question. Peru.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my man.
I feel like someone else said Peru, too.
Yeah.
I love Peru, dude. It's
Peruvian
so
tobacco.
underused. Oh.
Why is that? Is it an economical thing?
It's expensive. There's the one guy I know that supplies it. He supplies it for Davidoff. He supplies it for Byron Atabey.
Okay.
Really, really, really cool dude. But I don't know why it's not more prevalent. But a lot of the cigars that I really like use it. But yeah, it's expensive, and if you really, man, like in my case, right, I don't own the factory that my cigars are made at. So unless I get to a certain production level, it's hard for me to ask them like, hey, can you go get this for me? Right. But at some point, that's definitely a tobacco that I would like to use in a blend. And maybe that'll be in the anniversary 5 years.
God, that would be
far.
dope,
That'd be
dude.
sweet.
But yeah, I love Peruvian.
So how far are you away from 5 years?
May 17th was 3 this year.
My man,
congratulations.
So we're
Getting
a couple
close.
years. Yeah, man. No, closer to 5 than we are to 0.
Yeah,
so.
dude. Seriously,
That's
like
true.
you know what's weird is like think about like obviously we're gonna continue having conversations and there's gonna be a point in time where the collective three of us are gonna go, God, can you believe it's been 5 years?
Oh yeah, I hope so.
And it's gonna feel like no time at all. It's gonna feel like tomorrow.
Just a little bit more gray in our beards. Our balls a little saggier.
Yeah. That's right.
Right. Okay, next question. What's the up and coming region for tobacco in your opinion?
Well, that changes.
It does.
And like when I first started, Dominican tobacco was making like this massive resurgence, like Caldwell and Chogui, and everybody was looking for like, stuff coming out of that Rivas factory in the Dominican, or like, Henderson Ventura, who's a great dude, by the way, great guy. That was like the thing, right? And then like this past year, Connecticut broadleaf was crazy. You couldn't buy that stuff to save your life. I mean, that's why you saw like guys that typically use broadleaf for whatever were using Mexican, they were using
Right.
whatever.
They're diverting away from it.
Yeah, man, because of supply issues. So I think what a lot of people forget is these are natural made and these are dependent on weather and crop size and all of that. So sometimes it's not even really a market thing; it's an availability thing too on the supply side.
Mm-hmm.
So, I yeah, today I don't know what that is. Or Aganorsa leaf seems to be probably the thing everybody's talking about the last few months. Aganorsa tobacco,
Yeah.
Aganorsa tobacco.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off that
that'd
train.
be, but that I think is probably the closest thing right now.
Okay.
When Aladino came out, and which obviously the guys used to make Camacho, people were kind of jumping on that Honduran train for a little bit.
Yeah, that was kind of hot there for a second, wasn't it?
Yeah. So again, man, trends, right? And
right.
for my ass, I don't use any of that stuff in my cigars. So again, you can never be uncool if you're never cool to begin with.
I love it.
I feel like you mentioned Connecticut broadleaf as kind of like the hard to get tobacco that was kind of like the big one in 2019. I feel like the one that was kind of like the hidden especial was Sumatran. I feel like 2019 was like the year of Sumatran for me. Like there was so many interesting Sumatran cigars, wrappers of course, that came out in 2019 that I was like, damn.
Yeah, I wonder if that had the opposite effect if the adverse was there, where it was like the accessibility was very high. Where it's like, hey, you can get on, and then cost was low, right?
Well, first of all, Sumatra is not cheap. I actually have been working on a Sumatra cigar myself. Spoiler alert.
Oh,
shit! That is probably a tweak or two away from being something really, really special. But again, man, it comes down to a lot of times what's available, what can you work with, what can you make that's different, and whatever. But being in my position, man, it's kind of nice because you're constantly under the radar, so you could work on some really cool stuff, and you have time to do it and make sure it's right.
Like you don't have you don't have some weird expectation around it where it's like I can do my thing and be the mad scientist.
Like the consumer and media outlets are like, so Patina, what are you coming out with this year at the PCA?
I feel like that's got to be the most maddening question for manufacturers is what are you coming out with next
this year?
Yeah, it's tough. Look, everybody was telling me, oh, you need a Maduro, okay, well, we got the Maduro, and you still don't order the cigar, so what does it matter? Guys tell you all the time, oh, you should come out with the Lancero, you should come out. Who? The five people that are going to buy the Lancero?
That love the Lancero? Right.
Okay, yeah, it's great for us cigar nerds, but what about, again, the 95% of the cigar
that
market
smokes Robustos or whatever. Right.
So, dude, you can't chase... Again, you can't chase that stuff. You got to just, you take the advice, you appreciate it, but you got to do what's right for you.
Yeah, hold steadfast to what you know and proceed forward.
Absolutely.
Mo, this is my last question.
All right.
What cigar, not Patina, do you find yourself smoking most often these days?
Byron.
You gave me my first Byron cigar. Do you know that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Which is awesome, man. And I love you for it because at the time I didn't realize how expensive it was, and I almost shit my pants when I saw how much money it was. I was like, "Why did you give me that?"
I know a guy, so I'm very lucky that I usually get decent deals on that stuff. But they're phenomenal cigars, and I've long said, even before I even knew Oliver, or Nelson Alfonso, who's the blender on those cigars. I've long said that those are one of the only cigars in the market that are worth the price tag.
Dude, they are
that ultra premium price tag, right?
Right.
And they're really phenomenal cigars, and man, I respect everything those guys are doing. Some of them, Nelson Alfonso, for the people that don't know, is extremely accomplished and one of the most humble people that you will ever meet. especially considering how much he has accomplished. So, yeah, man, it's pretty cool.
What was interesting to me is that when you gave me that cigar, we were sitting at that lounge. He said, "Smoke this. You ever had one before?" I was like, "No, I've heard great things." Didn't realize obviously what the price was of it.
Yeah.
You're like, "Smoke this and tell me what you think." And I was like, you're right in saying like it was shockingly amazing. Where I kind of like in my head, Mo, I was thinking like, yeah, I expect this to be a good cigar. It's coming from Mo. I know this is going to be good. But to the point of which it was, I was like, well, that doesn't seem right. Like, because we've talked about diminishing returns, and especially in connectedness, like what you're talking about is like, hey, does it really live up to the premium price? And I swear to God, that was one of the best cigars I've ever smoked in my life. And I actually have one. So I was gifted one by another person that we both know, which is currently sitting in my humidor. I have not smoked yet. Where I'm just like waiting for the moment to smoke this cigar. And I was like, shit, like knowing what I know now, I feel like I'm just going to hold on to this thing for like 60 years until I'm on my deathbed riddled with mouth cancer. And then I'm going to go, I'm smoking this Byron.
Dude, listen, they're made to be smoked.
I know. God damn it, Mo. I know that, but I have such a challenging time with it.
Look, man, you know what? God has blessed you. You have the means to replace it.
That's true.
Just smoke the fucking cigar.
That's a good point.
Yes, thank you
well,
for saying that.
Well, I was going to smoke the Patina Habano once the show was over, but I guess I'll smoke the Byron.
So, well, believe it or not, there is there's a massive crossover in those two. A lot of people that like that cigar, if they don't necessarily want to spend that on an everyday cigar, smoke the Patina Habano.
No shit.
I've seen that in a lot of shops that carry both brands.
Really
interesting.
Which has been fascinating. Which explains why I probably like it so much. I don't know, because I mean, they don't taste the same. So for anybody thinking that I'm comparing, they're not.
One versus the
other.
But
there's a profile similarity.
Right.
And I always talk about profiles. I don't talk about wrappers because or this or that, because you could have a profile that transcends what the actual cigar is made from.
Of course.
Right. So there's a profile similarity that people that like that also like the Patina Habano.
Yeah, there's like weird. You actually mentioned it in the early part of the episode when we were talking about just like some preconceived notions or ideas of what tobacco should be like from a specific region or from a specific place, and that's not always necessarily the reality. So I like the idea that you use profile on that is to like kind of hack away the biases that I think some people have created for themselves.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's all about profile. Everybody has a profile that they enjoy. It doesn't matter where the tobacco's from.
Of course.
So.
Well, I will say this, my man. I absolutely love talking to you, and
likewise.
It's weird because we're talking now, and I'm going to go, well, this is going to be disappointing when I hang up the phone, but the reality is I'm going to talk to you again in like 2 days, which is fucking awesome, which is actually makes like I don't know how many times in like a week span, which makes me very happy. So
likewise. Yeah, I'm excited, guys.
Yeah, I'm always just the guy that kind of like is at a house party that is like drinking by himself in the corner, just watching everybody else. Not really talking, but just watching.
So Mo, I've
had that said before.
I've got to ask you a question. Is it appropriate in this particular point in time for me to dress Chris up like a what did Cal call him? The Corojo.
Corojos.
Oh, well. There are definitely I don't know, man.
Hey.
I think people could use a good laugh.
Yeah, but I think I'm gonna.
There's a lot of unfortunate stuff happening in the world right now. So.
That's true.
I think I'm gonna attract some bears though, and I don't mean the type that live in
you'll
the forest.
get some bears, all right. Yeah, we're not talking about the football team or the or the people that think the market's gonna go down.
Yeah.
That is true. Okay, well. Noted. We've got Mo's opinion, so I feel like I know how I want to proceed forward with this.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I would say it's an absolute pleasure, and
Likewise,
I honestly, man, I cannot wait. And it's weird because I haven't been able to. Obviously, no one's been able to travel, and my job has changed, so I won't be traveling as much. But Chicago is like always a premier area for me to go to.
Sure.
So I can't wait until it's safe and conducive for me to travel back up there, so we can hang out again. So
absolutely, likewise.
This has been an absolute pleasure, and I would love to say,
mine,
hey, Mo, I'll talk to you again in a year, but I'll literally talk to you in a couple days.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. See you, buddy, and have a good weekend.
Right,
see you, bud.
You too.
See you, man.
See you.
What a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
Always a pleasure to talk to.
I just like listening to him talk. It's something about his voice.
He's legitimately one of my favorite, and it's... You know, when I say something and I say I'm genuine, I shouldn't have to say I'm genuine. I think people should already recognize the fact that I'm being genuine. But he's one of my absolute favorite people to just sit down. Like him and I sat like this from you and I. We had these conversations.
Yeah.
At a cigar lounge in Chicago. And I don't even know how long we were there. It was a while. And we sat down and we had this kind of conversation. Just smoking a cigar. Just fucking hanging out. And it was like... It's weird because it almost seems very anti-enjoyable. I think a lot of people would be like, sounds kind of boring. But for me, it was like, this is my environment. This is what I love the most.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like vacation to me. I'm literally sitting next to him and we're talking and having a great conversation. I'm like, this is vacation for me.
Yeah.
This is like something where I can go back to wherever I need to go back to, a hotel or other, and I can talk to someone and go, oh, you wouldn't believe who I talked to for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. See, I don't talk much, but what happens is if you're not talking to me, then my insecurities kick in. I'm like, do you not like me? And then it's like, why are you not talking to me? I'm listening. I'm not responding, but I'm listening.
That's funny. Sometimes it's better to listen.
I love listening. That's the best part about
mine.
these interviews. I just love sitting back. You answer very poignant and good questions. I love hearing the difference, and I love hearing the synergistic responses across all everybody, like things they have in common. But I like the little nuance changes.
Me too.
And I really try to pick up on those.
Yeah, there's a ton of commonality, but then you're right. There's like these subtle variances in some people's beliefs, and all kinds of like interrelated to the business and so on and so forth. But I will say this, I'm really happy we'll be back on with Mo in a couple days. So it's going to be, for anyone who's listening to this now, I will say tune in tonight if you're listening to this on Monday.
Yeah.
We are doing a YouTube live, and it's the Sultans of Smoke podcast.
Yeah.
It's the TLE podcast, the Lounge Experience, and the Hot Ticket. We're all going to be doing a live together, broadcast on YouTube, recorded, so it'll be, even if you can't make it, it'll be downloadable. You actually be able to see it on YouTube. But we're doing that Monday night at
8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m.
I was going to call
Central.
it the hot, sexy Sultan's Lounge. I was literally just going to combine everybody's names.
Merge the names together. It is on, and it's like, obviously I love doing the podcast, is what I look forward to doing the most throughout the week. But I don't know that I've been this excited to have, because what's weird is a lot of times, actually most of the time, the majority of the time, minus very few times, it's you and I interviewing, having discussion with someone in the industry, right? This is the time where we don't have to be that, and we can just be with our peers.
Yeah, that's true.
Which we've never been able to do. We've done it we did the Burn Down podcast, which those guys are fucking great. And I can't wait to have them on our podcast. That was really the first time uniquely that you and I have done something like that, where we're on the other end of it, where it's like, hey, we can just be peers.
Yeah.
This is going to be a true form of that, where it's peers, it's people we've known for a long time, where we're going to talk about topics between the collective podcast group about what we think and feel about certain things. Not having to ask someone else to solicit their advice, but this is what we think and feel.
Yeah.
And you either going to listen or you ain't going to listen. You may like it, you may not like it. But I think it's something the industry has been yearning for a long time. Because I've had so many people approach me saying like, why don't we do other shows with other podcasts? And I'm like, yeah, you're fucking right. Like why don't we? And we've done some stuff, but not like this is a big collective group.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be unique. It's something no one's ever done before. So tune in 8 o'clock tonight.
If you watch and we get 100,000 likes, we will do a whole year's worth.
Yeah. If we get 100,000 likes, we'll definitely do a year's worth.
I
will
will
say
set the
this.
frequency, though.
We should probably conclude the episode. And as always, I appreciate everybody listening. I appreciate Mo for Patina Cigars for being on.
For sure.
I would definitely say this. If you aren't familiar with Mo Cigars, if you aren't familiar with the Patina lineup, I am telling you right now.
Oh, shit.
That Patina Habano is absolutely and definitively one of my all-time favorite fucking cigars, and one of which I seek to smoke as often as I can. As a matter of fact, when this podcast is over, I will be smoking one tonight as I'm grilling my dinner. So, I would say with that, check out Patina.
I got to get up because I've been sitting on Nicolas Cage's face the whole time. I can't breathe.
Yeah, you'd like that. You'd like that, wouldn't you, you little hooer?
He smells like tramp.
Like taint. Check out our show sponsor, My Cigar Pack. You can visit them at www.mycigarpack.com.
Enter code HOT10
to
receive a discount during checkout.
$10 off your first pack. All right, let's conclude this episode. Chris, let's cheers to a wonderful Friday. As always, cheers, brother.
Cheers.
And cheers to the collective audience. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back at you next week with episode 154. See you, everyone.
Bye.